All right, today's highlight for compounding healthcare is going to be CytoDyn, CYDY, small cap biotech, OTC, market cap's around 200-300 million. Lots happened over the last year, but nothing's really happened in the last several months. Big moves, but not as much. Big thing is that the former CEO, Nader Pourhassan, is gone. Kind of the founder and, the reason why CytoDyn really exists. But towards the end there, I think everybody was thinking in terms of shareholders, and a lot of board of directors are probably looking at there need to be a change. Scott Kelly, I think, he stepped down to be off the board. Well, he's from the head of the board, so a lot going on in terms of the actual company. They're looking to get their new CEO. Well, actually, he's the president now. I think he's looking to be in the CEO role soon. A lot of transition. Big thing is financing. You look through their SEC documents. Lots of different ways that they're trying to fund the company, keep the lights on. It's rough. It's been a rough go for, a couple years now. The big thing, actually, let's get into that first, which is, what they are. They focus on leronlimab. That's their product, or their asset. Started off with HIV, and expanded it out pretty quickly. Honestly, they've, a lot of people say this leronlimab has potential of having very much a Humira type of impact. And, a lot of people, how's that possible? It's, monoclonal antibodies, which that's what leronlimab is, and that's what Humira is there are these major cogwheels in how your immune system and your body works. So if you find an incredibly important target, which it's a CCR5, so it's a CCR5 antagonist. If they do their research and they figure out that CCR5 is involved in all these different indications and diseases and conditions, then it's going to show some impact probably. It might be a little, it might be, huge. So there's a lot going on here. I think I don't have the slide with me, but the list of things that they've hypothesized and done some preclinical discovery data on to show some impact potential is much longer than what's on here. It's really extensive. But anyway, so they started off with HIV in combination therapies. That's this one that's been pending. It's it's been a debacle. The people, the CRO that did their data, is just not giving it up. It just was bad time. Things were all messed up, and these guys need to get somebody else to do the data. And I think they said they got it now. I think in the last company update, they said they have the data, and now they're working with a different CRO and statisticians and getting things all cleaned up, so that this time when they submit it to the FDA, it won't be just like, this is not working. Much better packet. That being said, all these other indications are kind of different levels, even though they're like the different phases. Some of them are kind of not active right now. The COVID-19 trials have essentially been put on hold. I'll get into that. Well, maybe I'll touch that a different time. But the COVID-19 stuff, it's been a rough time because their initial trials in the United States were, I hate to say it was the company's fault. It's probably, because there are discussions with the FDA, and, they got the dosing right now. It's sad. It's what they probably should, what they've been working on the last year probably should have been, from the get-go, but it's not working. We'll see. Maybe at some point it all works out. They get enough data to show that does work. COVID's not going away, so if they can still show that it is, safe and effective. There might be some commercial value to it. However, having that indication would be, I think, very useful, and it will, validate the fact that it is a broad use monoclonal antibody. All right. Anyway, the HIVs were put on clinical hold, so gotta see what's going to go on there. That's not good going into the fact that your other HIV programs are on hold as you're trying to submit for approval. So see what's going on there. Their oncology is kind of what looks like where they're going right now. Triple negative breast cancer has had some great data. They're working on this basket trial, meaning lots of different types of tumors. They have to see 22 solid tumors. That's moving along. NASH could be huge. It's kind of crazy to think that for something that works on HIV and COVID-19 and oncology also works with NASH. That would be a huge breakthrough if that does work, and it works in a different fashion. And just like everything else, if you can show that your product is safe and effective, and it doesn't tax the body as much as some of these other drugs will, because NASH, you're going to have some of them that maybe they do this too quick. It might be too strong of a drug. That's another thing with like oncology, where the idea is like, these, you get OS, overall survivals, where the drug itself might be effective against the disease, but what does it do to the human? What does it do to the patient? Does it actually is it so toxic that it hurts them and shortens their lifespan, even though it's effective against cancer? Same thing can happen in NASH, where liver tox. You're trying to affect the liver, which is part of the way you keep your body running correctly and preventing you from becoming toxic. If you're doing damage to the actual tissue by getting rid of that fat so quickly and you're trying to eradicate it, is that process so toxic? Or is the drug itself so toxic? Again, just all those things need to be considered. Even if it might not be the best in class, if it's something that is safe and effective that can be used from day one all the way through the patient's treatment, that's important, right? Because that if it's a mild case, or it's somebody who's in a late stage who can't handle such an aggressive treatment, maybe that's the time where leronlimab steps in all these situations. MS, that'd be massive. Again, if it might not be the absolute pinnacle drug to use in MS, but again, it's another indication, another disease where you can't just throw the most potent thing at every single patient and it's going to work. It might be too much for them. So there's some promise here. Now, another thing that just came up is, can they get a gene therapy to be given to a patient that will code for leronlimab, essentially turning the human into a giant bioreactor to create leronlimab inside the body, essentially creating leronlimab in the body, antibodies. We'll see. That would be crazy. It'd be very nice to see, because then essentially you'd be creating this functional cure, and I'm sure this would also work in other instances. So now they did mention, I believe I heard they mentioned this in their previous investor call, but we'll see. They say it's claiming a potential for one-time gene therapy and coding, so we'll see. I think this could save the company in a way that you're going to move patent protection for this way down the road. So compared to leronlimab, which they still have time for that, but it's possible that this extends the company's life here. So now what I would say the concern is I got to get down here. So the research is the grants for it's for Oregon, so it's not to the company. Now, so he serves as a CytoDyn scientific advisor. So, if he's coding this, he knows leronlimab, and he's trying to get this to work inside the body. I'm assuming the company has some rights to this. Maybe. That's where we're gonna. That's a big, the research is being done there. It is leronlimab. It is, a scientific advisor to CytoDyn that's doing the research. Question is, what rights does CytoDyn have to this research? And the fact that the grant is, it's for Oregon, so University OHSU. So anyway, yeah, we don't want to do that. Any other press releases? Yeah, this might be a good one to look at. Take a look at their company update or listen to it. Another one, I didn't go over this. So this is getting into some conflicts previously with Nadir. So this was back when this issue was when I first really got involved with invested and was covering the company. And just a backstory on that real quick. I didn't even know about CytoDyn, but I was covering Progenics, and which they got acquired by Lantheus, and going through, and I was like, what's this? I was looking through their 10Ks and just doing my due diligence, and I realized, they had this small percentage ownership of leronlimab, and then it said, it had been given, sold to CytoDyn, and so I looked into CytoDyn, I'm like, wow, what? And at that point, everything those Progenics was doing was just wrong. It just seemed like it. It was, at one point it was a good company and had a lot of promise, but their lead product, Zedra, just did not get off to a good start. And it still is struggling even under Lantheus. But they had all this prostate screening and diagnostics, and now Lantheus is showing that stuff is doing great. That took Lantheus' stock from about $15 to now they're 60, 65, mid to high 60s now. So that's why I was involved in that company. But anyway, I was kind of floored the fact that they got rid of leronlimab based upon what it did. And I looked into CytoDyn, and at that point they had done the long haul trial, and they've done the long trial of this combination therapy, and they're ready for BLA submission. And that was a long multi-level, because they had a rolling submission, but still it just took forever. And then all of a sudden COVID happened, and they jumped in on that. They were working on some other stuff in terms of the cancer, and it just seemed like every week they had a new endeavor. But at that time, they were kind of doing this rapid expansion, and Dr. Pastel here was, I think, had just jumped on the scene with them when I started covering. And, what happened is they acquired stuff from his company, his Prostagene LLC, and so he has listening to the videos back then, had a really great idea about how CCR5 was working, and then just one day it was just like it must have been a blow up. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but he was out, and it was turned into an ongoing legal dispute, and it's been for a while. It just seemed like I almost forgot about it. But now that Nadir's gone, it looks like CytoDyn is trying to make good with them. Looks like he's trying to get back into the fold. Yeah, so regrets Dr. Pistel's departure from the company. The subsequent public statements by the former CEO, Nadir. So the company's saying, that we're trying to make good. I don't know what happened. So yeah, it seems. Yeah, here we go. So that's we'll see. I don't know. I think the guy definitely knows what he's doing. Yeah, see that I mean, to me that's telling me that they're really trying to get him back in. If they're actually saying, hey, this guy's done a lot of work and the guy knows what he's doing. And I think he had a lot of imaging. Prostagene was a lot of imaging with using CCR5 for diagnostics, and I forget. Yeah, I'll have to look into that again. But I know that was a little bit of a sidetrack, but it does give you an idea of what's going on here. The company is just, what's the word? Renovating itself. Just different thing. It's still centered around leronlimab. Getting rid of some things, slowing some things down. Really, honestly they need to just hammer home. Got to get something on the market. Got to find some way to make some cash. They have to find ways to get rid of some of the product that they're accumulating from Samsung, which they owe Samsung, I'm sure, a significant amount of cash right now. Hopefully they still maintain that relationship, so if they do get approved, they have somebody who's legitimate, like Samsung, to produce leronlimab. The company's definitely going to have to figure out a new commercial partner. You cannot have Pharma Boy or Pharma Bro, Scarelli, whatever, one of his, I don't even know where, the company that now has the rights to the commercial part, to run this commercially, I don't even know if it has as a website at this point. So they have to figure that out too. I don't know. It's a company that should have been sold years ago, but now it's like, they're just trying to pick up the pieces after Nadir couldn't get it all the way across the finish line. And I'm not going to sit here and bash that guy right now, because that guy went down kicking and screaming in terms of, but that could also be seen as fighting. And we had updates frequently, which helped out the share price. We haven't had any, basically any updates, which is probably great for the long term to kind of calm it down and get the DOJ and everybody pissed off the FDA because everybody was screaming and yelling at the FDA that why aren't you doing anything about CytoDyn? Why are you ignoring them? And that probably pissed them off because they had all these big pharma guys manning the helm there. But this is what happens when you don't give any updates, and I know maybe there's nothing to update at this point because everything's just been slowed down and they're on auxiliary power, but essentially just trying to limp along here. My hope is that they're just trying to calm everything down and try to get legitimate partners to say like, hey, we're a little bit more pragmatic now. We'll see. Usually I do a good technical analysis, but what am I going to do here? It's just kind of flatlining. Personally, I haven't touched it in a long time. After my last article, I was, just gonna hold on with what I have left. I don't want to take myself out of that house money position by taking cash off the sidelines and putting it here right now. I've made money several times over with CytoDyn. I still believe that there's a huge upside potential in the company, but it can't be from doing their what I call the mile-wide hole, but 1 inch deep. These guys need to figure out one thing and get it all the way across the finish line, start showing some growth. They're not a huge company, so they could, limit the cash burn very quickly if they start getting something on the market here. Rough time. Anyway, I think I'll end it there. I don't have any recommendations here at this point. I just wanted to highlight the fact that we got to keep an eye on it. We can't just put it in the back, the back of the closet and just never look at it again. You got to keep an eye on this company in a way, especially if this base is out for another few months. Second half of the year, you get close to October, November. At that point, we'd have to assume that this company would have at least something done, at least an update on the HIV BLA being resubmitted. Maybe we get some sort of update on this gene therapy endeavor. Clinical holds might be addressed at that point. If they can get that stuff back on track and then just find a way, what is the timeline to getting some sort of money coming in and, maintaining some of the investments that were done years ago? Can they not be everything thrown in the trash? Is there a way to at least gather, some of the losses back there and also validate the drug? If you can validate it with some sort of FDA approval, that does bode well for the other indications, at least making it across the finish line. Gain some momentum, get some, bullish sentiment back in the ticker and the, shareholders. Obviously, having one thing, at least one indication, and on the market would at least help with partnerships, potentially getting a buyout. Sometimes I just sit here and shake my head because I think of what would this happen if this was that good and it was put into a larger company's hands that had the cash. I can't imagine how quickly they could get some of these things done. Now, I always said that for how small the company was, they were active. They were moving. They were looking for things. These guys, it's not like these guys have been just sitting around. It's just, when you're always fighting with a limited amount of cash and you're, half your efforts just trying to fund the next day while trying to, develop a potential groundbreaking drug. It's pretty impressive what they've done so far. So, can't sleep on it. Just keep an eye on it. I have a few triggers in here, alerts when it passes certain share prices or volume. Look at that. I was lucky. I came in and I remember it was around 50 cents. I was like, oh, this looks pretty good. And I started adding. I got big at 35 or 36. And then it just popped big time. You can see it just came up. This was when the BLA was getting there. And then COVID. We're gonna do the BLA. Everything's ready to go, and then COVID. That was great. I remember $7. It was at $7.50. That just took a whole bunch off. Came back down. I reloaded. Did it again. I started reloading again around $3, and then I added around 1, and then around 50 cents. So now I don't want to reload and keep adding and adding and adding until I see some sort of change here. What's this new CEO going to do, I'll end it there. I know it's a long video. I apologize, but this should probably be a 5-part video at this point. All right. See you guys later.